It starts in a glassy conference room after hours, the skyline a quiet aquarium around you. Someone smiles, says your name with the warm click of approval, and stacks congratulations like plates. Then softly, the plates turn to a tray you must carry across a wet floor. A timeline shaved thinner, a shortcut through a rule, a favor that looks small until it leans. Your chest does the math. Your mouth drafts gratitude, while your judgment reaches for breaks. Praise has a twin. Tonight you meet it. Every ladder hides rungs of ice. That's the part no memo prints. You climb because they clapped, and suddenly your foot slips toward a promise you never made. The room keeps grinning, but the tilt is real. Don't turn this into a villain. Call her fortune, the world's shifting weather. Sometimes generous, sometimes bored, always testing whether you confuse attention for safety. She tempts, delays, exposes. She likes a flattering story, but respects a steady hand more than a polished speech. This is where a severe tutor helps. Machiavelli sits in the back row, practical and unromantic. He reminds you that results outrun reputation, that a clear outcome, delivered cleanly, protects more than 1,000 agreeable nods. If a request threatens the goal, say so plainly. If it serves, shape it and sign your name. You feel the room cool as your questions warm air. Here is the quiet tension under your ribs, the comfort of being liked, or the dignity of being useful. One buys a night, the other builds a month. One plays theater for the room, the other chooses tempo for the work. When the meeting turns, your task is not to look ready. It's to keep the ground underfoot. There are 7 tests most people fail by trying to look ready. Fortune isn't a goddess with moods. She's the current under the boat, slipping directions without warning. Sometimes she runs with you, smooth as glass. Sometimes she chops sideways, throwing spray into your eyes. Virtue is not swagger. It's your steering hand, attention steady, grip relaxed, timing honest. You don't command the river. You read it, trim the sail, shift your weight, and choose moments that keep you upright. Here's the first clarity. Access is not safety. There's badge, a room, a name on the thread. These open doors but don't keep floors from tilting. Attention is not authority either. Eyes on you can feel like power, yet disappear when risk arrives. Authority is the map you can execute, the promise you can keep, the boundary that survives applause and silence equally. A micro-story. The invite arrives bright and sugary, embossed with importance. Join this special circle, it purrs, just a quick sink. You float in the warm bath of being noticed and accept. The call expands. Small asks metastasize into obligating favors. Your leverage hours, those rare blocks where you build, think, and set stones, evaporate into updates and optics. You leave smiling, lighter by the very fuel your work requires. You weren't naive. You were hungry. Hunger narrows vision, and fortune loves narrow vision. No shame for wanting in, just note the cost. Every yes buys a story about you. Not every story builds you. Virtue weighs stories by what they deliver when the room forgets your name. So here's the real game. Steer, don't pose. Guard the hours that move the needle. Trade charm for clarity whenever the two disagree. Ask what remains after the attention wanders. If it's only glow, step out of the beam and back into work. Test one arrives like thunder in a blue sky. A message flashes. Decide now, doors are closing. Scarcity paints a clock on your chest and dares your breath to outrun it. You pause. You slow the clock by asking for numbers, not vibes. How many slots exist? Which deadlines are real? What proof the door stays shut if you wait until morning? Urgency loses volume under measurement. You buy a night not with bravado, but with questions that tally cost. Often the offer survives sunrise. When it doesn't, you're spared a sprint in shoes that blister. Test 2 wears a bright badge. Be seen in this room. Cameras, hashtags, the fragrant promise of proximity. The bait is simple. Borrow glow, feel taller. You trade differently. Ask for a deliverable tied to the invite. A written brief you can publish, a problem you can solve, a metric you can move. Visibility becomes a byproduct, not the meal. You leave with something that breathes when lights dim, a brick in the wall you are building, not a sticker that peels by Friday. Test 3 prefers applause to outcomes. Loyalty theater wants you to perform allegiance. Nod often, echo slogans, defend decisions you didn't shape. It rewards noise and penalizes questions. You answer by practicing quiet service that leaves a trail of results. You document what changed because you were there. You circulate what helped without confetti. So over time, the room learns what loyalty really is. Not chanting, but carrying weight where it counts. None of these moves require bravado. They ask for pace. You keep footing by cooling clocks, converting optics into output, and letting work speak without costume. The river still turns, but your hand learns the tiller, steady and awake each day now. The next 4 tests are subtler and more expensive if missed. Test 4 arrives wearing progress as perfume. Plans are praised, then the target slides an inch, then a mile. What was a bridge becomes a moving shore. You steady the scene by freezing the spec. Name the version, date it. Write the promises as if they were bolts. When the goal shifts, rebaseline in public. New scope, new cost, time. Sunlight makes edits honest. Footprints on paper keep shoes from slipping. Test 5 sells prestige as a product. Fancy partners, panels, laurels, the velvet theater. It feels like success even when nothing moves. You puncture the bubble with a simple pin. What changes in the world if we're right? If the answer is only the story about us, you're buying smoke. If the answer names customers, defects, dollars, days saved, then the light is real enough to steer by. Test 6 arrives sweating. Someone else's panic wrapped in your name. Messages stack, pulses climb, and suddenly you've inherited a stampede. You don't import their adrenaline. You lend tempo. Ask for the smallest irreversible step that improves the situation, then take it. Define owners, time boxes, and review points. When pace replaces panic, shoulders drop and thinking returns like birds after thunder. Test 7 is the sweetest, a detour disguised as care. Off-sites, bonding, generous check-ins that colonize afternoons. Joy matters, but leverage hours are rare and sacred. Put guardrails around the blocks that build the future. Schedule celebration after shipping so it celebrates something real. Protect morning depth. Bargain play into evening light. Taken together, these tests target attention, time, and nerve. Yours grow when you make the room slower, clearer, truer. The current still turns, but the keel stays straight, which leaves a harder question, the one our stern tutor asked by example. How did Machiavelli navigate storms without becoming one? He watched courts the way sailors watch harbors, noting where the water looks calm but hides a rip. He wrote not to harden hearts, but to keep citizens from drowning in flattery. In rooms tuned to applause, he listened for hinges, for levers that moved the door. He called it virtu, not theater, practiced habit of seeing what matters and touching only that, even when praise prefer a dance. The method is plain. Appear steady, be steady, move the result. Don't outlaw charm. Outgrow dependence on it. Keep your face readable and your calendar loyal to outcomes. If attention comes, let it sit in the back row while the work takes the stage. Speak simply, commit carefully, finish what you start and publish what you finish. Quiet travels farther than glitter because it doesn't need an escort. Remember the old bargain. What is bestowed can be revoked. What is built must be bargained. Titles can vanish at the speed of a meeting. Competence survives the minutes. When storms flip the boat, reputation yells. Results row. Here's a small scene. A glittering panel invites you to glow beside important names. You thank them and decline. That evening, you finish a chapter that refuses to be pretty before it's true. Weeks later, the chapter becomes a product note, then a fix, then a feature that pays rent. The panel posts a photo that fades. The feature keeps buying groceries. This is his lantern. Clarity over costume, pace over panic, outcomes over optics. It's not cold. It's kind to the future you live in. You'll still take the stage sometimes, but only after the backstage is nailed tight. When fortune turns, her face, your keel stays straight because the ballast is real. Next, a 2-minute ledger that reprices your day before you answer. Some nights the compliment keeps you awake. You replay the meeting, the smiles, the little sparkle of being singled out, and instead of sleeping, you rehearse being worthy. The room is dark, but your thoughts stay bright and busy, pulling threads that won't lie flat. Morning brings the first urgent ping, and your jaw tightens before your thumb moves. You know the choreography by heart. Praise, request, rush, regret. It's not just calendar cost, it's nervous system tax, attention spent, breath shortened, posture bent toward pleasing. Let's translate stress into signals you can steer. Keep a watch list, simple and repeatable. Breath. Is it shallow and high or slow enough to feel ribs move? Pace. Are you answering at the speed of their fear or the speed of your craft? Posture. Did your shoulders climb, or are your feet on the floor and spine available? Question. What is the smallest fact I need before deciding? 4 checks, 40 seconds, real control. You're not fragile for needing these. Your slowness is craftsmanship, not cowardice. You are tuning your instrument so it doesn't squeal when someone else grabs the dial. When breath widens, options widen. When pace drops, priorities surface. When posture returns, voice returns. When you ask one clean question, panic shows its holes. The test was never about being the quickest. It was about staying accurate while others hurry. So notice the tells. Insomnia after praise, jaw tension, before pings, the way coffee tastes like duty instead of daylight. Each is a flag, not a failing. Let them cue you back to steadier ground, less theater, more tempo you can own. We don't remove pressure. We reroute it through habits that hold. Before the city wakes, you slip to your desk and click on the lamp. The pool of light is gentle, like a quiet harbor for thinking. Beside the keyboard waits a little card you made with a pencil title, Ledger. You breathe once, twice. The room agrees to go slow. First move, name the aim. Not the flattery, not the noise. What result must live by Friday? Say it softly so it fits on one line. Ship the fix. Protect sleep. Finish the note that unblocks 3 people. When the aim is short, the maze shortens. Second move, price the yes. If you answer now, what do you spend? Count the blocks of time, the early mornings you'll owe, the quality you'll trade to be quick. Ask what the yes buys later. Ask what it steals. The numbers rarely lie, and the panic loses height when it must show its receipts. Third move, pick the smallest leverage act. Not the grand gesture, the next brick. What could make the outcome? Likelier without burning the day? 1 email with decisions. A sketch of the spec. A boundary that protects an hour. Then do that and only that until the timer says stop. Rent status. Own competence. Status applauds at parties and deletes itself by Tuesday. Competence pays the rent when the room forgets your name. The card reminds you that optics are entertainment. Outcomes are architecture. Your senses slow in the lamp's pool. The test shrinks to the size of the card. Breath lengthens truly. Shoulders lower. You remember how quiet feels during good work. You can still say yes, but it will be a yes that likes you tomorrow. You can still say no, and it will keep doors open for the right work. The meeting heats fast. A leader strides in and says, "We must decide tonight or the window closes." Scarcity rushes the table like wind in an alley. People sit taller, pens click, and timelines curl at the edges. You feel your pulse try to match the room's sprint. You remember the ledger, the bridge, the river that moves while you don't. You start with the lightest touch. I hear the window might close. Just the fact mirrored, no verdict. Then you ask one number, calm as a clerk. How many slots are available, and what is the documented deadline? You keep your voice low enough that others slow to hear it. Panic hates arithmetic. While the leader scrolls for receipts, the air cools. You propose one next step that changes the state. Let's hold the core option overnight, confirm the count in writing, and at 9 a.m. ship the smallest irreversible piece. Decision memo, owners, dates. A few shoulders drop. Someone exhales a laugh they didn't know they were holding. The leader nods because the path is real, not dramatic. The room tilts to your tempo. Heat loses oxygen. Thinking returns like birds after rain. No magic, only pattern. The 7 tests aren't personal. They're seasonal weather. Once you learn the shapes, scarcity, optics, loyalty, moving posts, prestige, panic, detours, you stop auditioning and start steering. You answer as the owner, not the orphan. You trade hurry for sequence, volume for proof, praise for pace. Results make their own introductions. By the time the calendar invite lands, it includes numbers, not vibes, scope, not glow, steps, not speeches. People bring their best because you guarded the air they breathe. And if someone tries to light the curtains, you have something better than a speech. Here is the sentence, short enough to fit on a cuff and calm enough to carry anywhere. I'm going to pause here and respond when I can be clear about the outcome. It is brief, neutral, and portable. It names your pace, honors the work, and gives everyone oxygen without assigning blame. Said once softly, it lowers the room by a few degrees. Said twice, it teaches people how to meet you. Picture a chaotic stand-up. Updates collide. Someone invokes a deadline no one can verify, and the conversation frays into theater. You feel the pull to perform speed. Instead, you use the sentence. The noise thins. Eyes lift from chat windows. You add one line. Let's anchor on the metric we're responsible for. A number returns to the table like a compass returning north. Tasks reattach to outcomes. Owners speak in next steps instead of hopes. 10 minutes later, the meeting ends early and the work finally breathes. Authority is the quiet that survives pressure. You don't seize the room, you settle it. The sentence works because it drains heat while protecting direction. It protects you too. You make fewer promises you'll resent and more decisions you can publish. Machiavelli would nod at the craft. Stable hand, steady face, real movement. He never asked you to harden, he asked you to steer. This is virtue without theater. Clarity over clamor, sequence over sprinting, results over applause. Used consistently, the line becomes a shared rail in rough weather. Say it today in a hallway, tomorrow in a thread, next week on a call. Repeat until it travels without you. People will begin to arrive with facts, not fumes, because the culture remembers your cadence. The map gets larger than one person's. Nerve and the posture becomes practice, and practice becomes culture. Once you know the tests, the week changes shape. There are fewer detours disguised as kindness, fewer meetings that eat the day and leave you strangely empty. Your work settles into longer lines. Depth returns like tide after noise withdraws. Mornings arrive with edges you can trust. Coffee tastes like a beginning again, not a bribe for courage. You find your tools where you left them, and they remember your hands. Pages stack, fixes ship. The calendar learns your pace and begins to cooperate. Then the room that once bent your breath calls you back. Same faces, same glass walls, same aerial view of a city pretending to sleep. This time you bring your ledger, your bridge, your sentence for fire. The first rush comes, you don't. You mirror one fact, ask one number, propose one smallest step. The table steadies. People hear their own thinking returning and lean toward it. You aren't louder, you're truer, and the room notices. This is authorship, not audition. The tests still visit, but they no longer rent your nervous system by the hour. You pick tempo, you publish outcomes. You let a claim be a weather report instead of a compass. The tribe that practices this is quiet, patient, stubborn in the kindest way. They protect leverage hours like candles and light them for each other. So take the gentle charge. Ledger before reply, ledger before decision, ledger before sleep. Give your attention to what moves the result, and let brightness serve the build. When panic lifts its megaphone, lower yours and ask for the next irreversible inch. Keep steering until the map remembers your name. Build what cannot be bestowed. Let it stand when the banners change. The lamps are lit. Walk with